All right, we're live for the third edition of the Countdown to March Madness program, of course, on the Anchor and Spotify and Apple, and that's where it's uploaded when it's done, right? So nailed it. We're live right now, though, on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, and everyone's going to be joining us. Thousands of people coming in as, 20 days until Selection Sunday.
Wow, that's hard to believe.
It's getting close. I don't know how everything's going to look before that. Conference tournaments, how are those going to go? We'll find out. But conference tournaments do start this week, and the first one's on Thursday in the Horizon.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get into those momentarily, but a lot went down in the last week. I mean, as is tradition with February, right? A lot of things go down in a week for college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of a year where the top teams are separating themselves a lot from the others. Like I would say the top 5 in the country right now, maybe even the top 6 if you want to include Alabama, is significantly better than the others in the top 25.
Yeah.
So
they definitely
go ahead.
The top teams keep winning while the other ones are just battling, it seems like. So
yeah, and the only top team that lost this week was Ohio State, but they lost to Michigan, and that was a close game the entire way. So
right.
You look at the AP poll, you have Iowa getting back into the top 10. They were 11th. They went up to 9. Villanova goes from 10 to 8. Then you have Oklahoma from 9 to 7. Alabama from 8 to 6. Teams dropping out of the top 10. Houston lost to Wichita State. They dropped to 12. Virginia lost twice. They lost to Florida State. They got killed in that game, and they lost to Duke. So, of course, this triggers a conversation. Oh, man, Duke. You know what I have to say about Duke? Okay. They're not good, but they're better without Jalen Johnson. And he obviously quit on his team. I think that's a good take. The whole opting out thing, the entire opting out thing was COVID related. And you can't just say that you opted out in the middle of the season when it's not related to anything other than your draft stock when you were playing. And it's a bad look when you do it the game before you do it, you played 5 minutes and they won.
Right. Yep.
So I don't
maybe
like the
removing
decision.
that toxicity, is going to help them, but they're going to have to make a huge run.
Yeah, they definitely have to win the ACC tournament because they're in a weak conference. And we'll just jump onto that quote from Josh Pastner, the head coach of Georgia Tech, who basically said the ACC should have 11 teams in the tournament every year. It's the best league in the country. Okay, first of all, it's not even a top 3 league in the country this season, not even close.
No.
Now, normally it is a top 3 league, but this year it's not good. Like Virginia's okay. They aren't as good as they usually are defensively, which is a worry. Florida State's good. Virginia Tech's pretty good. After that, it's bad. It's really Louisville, Clemson, not good. North Carolina is really not that good, even though they killed Louisville on Saturday, but Louisville was coming off of a COVID pause. So I get that he's saying that because he wants to, because he knows all the other coaches.
Say that, right? I mean, that's just like Pitino said about the Big Ten at the beginning of the season. So.
But that's valid. Like if you're not even close to the top,
it was valid. But yeah,
if
he would have said it at the beginning of the season, and then it's shook out like this, and he tried to keep saying it, then
he's trying to get his team into the tournament. Is what he's doing because they're firmly, on the bubble. They're not really even close in my eyes to being in the field of 68 at this point. Their league being as weak as it is doesn't help. So I'm sure he's trying to pump it up, But if you're in the Big East or the Big 12 right now, you could say that and it would be somewhat valid. But to be in the ACC and saying that, totally ridiculous. I mean, just absurd. That league is horrible this year. So there's really no disputing that because, like I said, after the top 3, it's not good at all. So, that's, just a fun quote by him. Good for him trying to get his team into the tournament, just like Pitino did at the beginning of the season, and they're starting to fall apart.
He should do it, right?
Yeah, and I watched real quick before we get into my top 30. I watched Pitino's post-game presser on Saturday.
Yeah.
Man, I get that they had a lot of injuries, but boy, does he want to bring it up every 5 seconds.
He said, I think Underwood, that's one coach that Underwood actually has his number,
Yeah. And we'll talk about that tomorrow too. So be on the lookout for that in the other one. But like every 5 seconds, every answer he would bring up Robbins and Kalsher and how they're injured. It's like, okay, you're not mentioning your best player.
Yeah, it happens to everybody. I mean, that's part of the season. You
Yeah,
know,
and if like let's say the team they played Saturday, which was Illinois, if Illinois lost Kofi Coburn, that would make a big impact. But I
right?
don't think that Underwood's the type of guy that would say, well, this guy's injured, and then every time he said it, it's like it's not an excuse. But you said it 7 times, so it kind of is an excuse.
I
But
mean, he wasn't complaining when Bosman Verdonk was injured, and Illinois doesn't
he's
have
he's
Hutcherson.
he's big pieces right there. So if we look at my top 30 of the week,
Mhm.
which I usually just kind of do it off the top of my head and kind of go with the flow. I kept Baylor, Gonzaga, and Michigan the top three the same. I did flip Illinois and Ohio State. Now, I did make a field of 68 that we will discuss momentarily, where I didn't move Ohio State off the one line because I don't think that they deserve that right now because my top 30 is not resume based. It's not based off of, your quality wins
That's how you're doing
like
right
the
now.
tournament would be. Yeah, and also I also take into effect my personal, feeling on the team. Like Loyola Chicago at 10, I love them. I think they're very
Right.
good. Florida State, basically the same thing. Teams moving in, you have San Diego State starting to climb. They're winning a lot of games. We'll talk about the Mountain West soon. Arkansas, I think, has done very well. They beat up on Florida last week. LSU is a team that I really like, and I think if they can get into the tournament, they could possibly get to the second week. And then BYU has been winning games as well. Then the biggest mover, Florida State went up 13, Virginia down 13. Like I said, Virginia, 2 losses, one of which they weren't even in the game. And I'm glad that we picked them last week against the spread.
Yes.
Weren't close.
Good call.
That was my call too. I don't know what I was thinking. It was a road game for them.
Yeah.
They're not as good as they usually are. I punished Houston a little less than a lot of people did. Wichita State's a good team. They're not great, but right now they're on top of the American Athletic. So say what you will about them.
Showing people who dropped, it was kind of covered.
Yeah, they get the deal. Tennessee, Rutgers, Wisconsin, VCU are out of the top 30. Tennessee's
struggling, huh?
Kentucky is the type of team, and I didn't ever think I would say this, but the way they've been playing, they could make a run in the SEC tournament because the SEC is not very good. If someone can pick Alabama off, even Kentucky, if they match up with Kentucky, I mean, I could see Kentucky making a run in that tournament. Kentucky or Ole Miss, one of those two.
And Alabama, they're not the most consistent team either.
No, they've been really good in SEC play. Yeah. But if they're not shooting well, they have a tendency to fall apart in games. And they're really good defensively. But like I said, they're not shooting well. Nothing's really going well for them. Right. But they have so many weapons that it's really hard to stop them. But they're a team that they're probably one of the top 1 seeds in conference tournaments, other than whoever the 1 seed in the ACC and Pac-12 is, that could get picked off by somebody. I think Alabama – I think that with USC, even though they're very good, but we saw them lose to Arizona last weekend. And I think, Virginia or Florida State, probably Florida State ends up with that 1 in the ACC tournament. I can see them getting picked off. Yeah. So if you look at the other conferences, I like Villanova, Michigan, and, Baylor to hold steady there. But we'll talk about Baylor soon. I might have a little bit of a bold prediction, out there for people. Okay. But my field of 68 is the topic here. I'm going to pull it up on the screen just so people get a better idea of what I'm looking at here and what I'm trying to do. I just kind of threw it together. I didn't really plan on doing this. I don't know how much I'm going to update it, but I wanted to do it on one of the weeks leading up because we only have, 2 more? Is it 2 more of these before?
2 more before it starts?
Is it before or after? 1? I'm trying to think. Yeah, 2. It's got to be 2. Duh. What a stupid comment by me.
Math's hard.
It is very hard. So right now, and I'm going to actually zoom this in so people can't see all of it at once. So the 1 seeds, I think this is fair. Gonzaga, Baylor, Michigan, Ohio State. So I think Baylor's the best team in the country, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Very close with Gonzaga. But I would put Gonzaga as the number 1 overall seed based on their resume and the fact that, they kind of control the narrative right now. Like if you start as the number 1 team, you're going to stay as the number 1 team, basically is what I'm looking at there. 2 seeds, I like Illinois is the top 2 seed. I think that's undisputed at this point. Alabama, Villanova, Oklahoma is the team that has jumped themselves onto the 2 line. Do you have any disputes with the 2 line?
I think it's okay. Who you got on the 3 line, though?
So the 3 line is Texas Tech.
It's fair enough. Yeah.
Wait, I read that wrong. West Virginia, Houston, Texas Tech's on the 4 line. West Virginia, Houston, Iowa, Florida State. Iowa's a close one. Florida State, those two teams are very close. 4 line, Texas Tech, Virginia Tech, Kansas, Tennessee. So Kansas has been emerging. They've won 5 games in a row, including a win over Oklahoma State and a win over Texas Tech. Their record's still really good. I think they're 17-7 or something like that. So, I mean, Kansas is back. Out of the Blue Bloods, they're the best team by far. If you like the 4 main Blue Bloods, Kentucky, Duke, Kansas, North Carolina, Kansas is way better than those other teams.
Yeah.
There's not even a close second.
No doubt about it.
Because the other 3 are kind of jumbled together in their badness. But Kansas is going to make the tournament easily now. There's maybe some people worried early in the year. Tennessee's slipping. I think a lot of people still have them on the 3 line. I don't see that. I think they're really close to 5 at this point. The 5 seeds, Texas is falling. USC, I had to put them at a 5. Most people have them as a 6. I love them as a 5. Oklahoma State as well. They're in a very strong conference. And it'd be nice, to get a number 1 overall player in a freshman class to play in the tournament and get a good seed, because Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz didn't get to play in the tournament. James Wiseman was gone in December. It'd be nice to get someone like that. And Purdue continues to emerge, despite the fact that some people think Matt Painter's a Big Ten coach of the year. That's a bunch of nonsense to me, but whatever. 6 seeds, I have Virginia, Arkansas, who is jumping highly. They're winning a lot of games. Creighton and Missouri. So Missouri's falling. Some people may have had them as a 4 or a 5. I think they're slipping into the 6 line. If you ask me, BYU, LSU, Florida, and Clemson rounds out the 7s. I think Clemson is supremely overrated. Anyone who has them as a 5 or a 6, that's a little much for me. 8 seeds, I went with Wisconsin, who some people still have a 6 or a 7. I think that's old news. I don't see them as a 6 or a 7. I have them as an 8. Rutgers is falling, but I still like them enough to have them as an 8, but they could be a 9 in some people's eyes. UConn, I'm completely biased towards. I love this team going into the season. They're probably like a 9 or a 10 for most people. But I was either going to have UConn or Loyola Chicago on the 8 line, and I went with UConn. Boise State, who is emerging, have them as an 8. At the 9s, I have Loyola Chicago. Of course, they could be like a 6 if people weren't so, anti-mid-major.
People
they
love
could be
them
a
as
6.
much as you did.
Yeah, Xavier, San Diego State, UCLA. I think those teams are firmly in. 10s, I went Maryland, who is starting to emerge. I think they've overtaken Minnesota for that last Big Ten spot. And Indiana. I mean, Indiana's barely in my estimation, but one of Minnesota, Indiana, Maryland is going to miss the tournament. So
and Indiana,
Minnesota is that team right now because they are 0-8 in the road. Indiana could be that team in some people's eyes because they just had a quad 3 loss to Michigan State.
Right, and Indiana plays what, Rutgers this week? Because I think
they play Rutgers and Michigan.
Rutgers is fallen too, so
I think Rutgers is safe.
Okay.
Compared to the other 3, I think they're safe.
Sure.
Oregon, I like them a lot. They're finally starting to get healthy. If Oregon's healthy, and you have Dana Altman, who, in my opinion, is one of the best tournament coaches, they can make a run. Then you have Louisville, who I think is terrible, but they're going to make the tournament. I don't think they have a chance to get to the Sweet 16. They've had a couple of COVID pauses, and they just haven't played as well as many would think. Colorado is a team that's a little bit overrated, in my opinion, but I think they'll be in as a 10. 11 seeds, you have Wichita State and Western Kentucky are solely in right now, in my opinion, due to the fact that they're leading their conferences. Now, Wichita State, I think, would still be in for me. Western Kentucky's close because I think they have 2 quad 3 losses. So I hope they get in because I want to see Charles Bassey play in the tournament. Their only opponent really in that Conference USA tournament is probably North Texas. I don't really see any other team that could really challenge them unless they just fall apart in that tournament. Colorado State is a Mountain West team that I have in. Part of the last 4 in Indiana, North Carolina would be a playing game. I think Indiana would control that game. But we'll find out if that happens. VCU, St. Bonaventure as 12s, a couple of A-10 teams. VCU, they're flirting with being, a last 4 in team because they lost to George Mason in double. I think it was a double overtime. I think it was just regular overtime. And they were up 10 at the half, and they lost that game. Belmont, who was like 0 for 14 from 3 against Jacksonville State in the first half and won that game. Then I have Seton Hall and St. Louis. I'm also biased towards St. Louis because I thought they were so good coming into the season. Seton Hall and St. Louis are very close. I think most would not have them in, but I went with it. So what are you going to do about it, people?
Right.
13's Winthrop, UC Santa Barbara, Toledo, and Wright State. Now, I got to say, this is one of the strongest 13 lines I think we're ever going to have. Winthrop is very good. UC Santa Barbara is very good. UC Santa Barbara is 44th in the net. Now, I know the net rankings are stupid, but, I mean, they're 70th in KenPom. I mean, they're a pretty damn good team. I think that, you know, you look at their record, they've lost 3 games. They're all quad 2 games. They haven't played a quad 1 game, which might hurt them a little bit, but, I mean, they're a good team. I think they'll, you know, definitely give fits to a 4 seed. And Toledo's good too. 14's Liberty, UNC Greensboro, who I believe is playing right now. They're playing Western Carolina. They're up 8 towards the end of the first half. That conference is going to be interesting. That conference tournament there for UNCG should be interesting in terms of teams that can challenge them are there. Abilene Christian Colgate, who I hate. I hope Colgate doesn't get in, but let them get in, whatever. They are 13th in the net, by the way. It's like a broken metric, I think. Like the way that they weigh certain things, it's like that's why Colgate's so high. Really like KenPom and all the other metrics have different variants that can, you know, actually weigh them properly, but the net doesn't. That's what I was told, I think.
Okay.
If I was told correctly, I don't know. 15 seeds, South Dakota, Eastern Washington, Siena, and then your guys, Grand Canyon, of course, who you picked to be a bracket buster or whatever I said the thing was. James Madison, UMBC. I wouldn't want to play UMBC if I'm a 1 seed.
Yeah, I mean, they got that guard. You know, he's pretty tall. It's all.
If nobody knows, we're referencing a 5'2" guard that averages 9 points. Pretty sweet.
Pretty impressive.
Gives hope
I
to
don't
everybody.
care who he's playing for.
Yeah.
If he's playing at the D1 level, that's impressive.
And I solely based what I said off of the fact they beat Virginia, not anything to do with their team now. Other playing games, Prairie View A&M, Wagner, Texas State, North Carolina A&T. Last 4 in Indiana, North Carolina, Seton Hall, St. Louis. First 4 out, Minnesota, Georgia Tech, Utah State, Stanford. Next 4 out, Ole Miss, SMU, Richmond, St. John's. So St. John's screwed themselves. Like, what are you doing? You're winning so many games. You beat Villanova. Then you choke against Butler when you're up 16. Then you get rattled by DePaul at home. I mean, that's bad.
Ouch.
Really bad. I mean, DePaul is not good.
Yeah.
But they're the type of team that could maybe, you know, compete with middle of the pack Big East teams, I guess. But, you know, last year probably haunts them. Bids by conference, 9 in the Big 10, 7 in the Big 12, 6 in the ACC, 6 in the SEC. ACC and SEC are not good. They're going to get 6 because of their reputation. And, you know, I think there's some teams getting in from those conferences that aren't any good. Pac-12, 4, Big East, 5, Mountain West, 3, Missouri Valley, 2. Actually, did I pick 2 in the Missouri? I think I forgot Drake, to be honest.
You did. I didn't hear Drake.
Yeah, so, you know, that's just what happens when you don't, like, triple check. So I'm just going to slip Drake in real quick, I guess, and I think that's fair. Let's see. I mean, goodbye, Seton Hall, right? See you guys. Thanks for competing in the thing. So while I do this on the fly, you have any overall thoughts?
I think it's pretty solid. I mean, you took the time. I'm not going to complain with anything you say. Drake, you know, they just lost their other stud, so I don't know how well that's going to play out. What they have to do is win out in the rest of the Missouri Valley regular season and then get into the tournament and win a couple games. Because, you know, they're now dealing with a situation where their guards, basically their top 2 players are out, and it's tough because, like, I wonder why Liam Robbins left Drake to go to Minnesota. Because I feel like he's playing against much better players. He might not even get into the tournament while Drake could get into the tournament. Just brutal. Yeah. If you look at bracketology trends of the week, basically everything I just said is a trend of some sort. If you look at the real legit trends, I think Iowa's moving up. I think
People are holding steady with that, with the 4-1 seeds that they have. I think Tennessee's dropping. I think Kansas is moving up. Virginia's slipping. Then you have Wisconsin and Rutgers kind of falling. I think you have a team like San Diego State surging. And that's kind of what Maryland as well. That's kind of the trends, of course. The bubble watch is heating up, as is per usual late February.
Yeah,
Georgia Tech's coach really going hard to try to get them a bid. Don't think it's going to work, but if you notice, when I was fixing my bracket, I solely moved Georgia Tech off of first 4 out because of what he said. So there you go with that.
I hope that's what the committee does too.
I don't even have them in next 4 out. They're out of the conversation.
See you later.
See ya. Don't say dumb stuff that normal people can tell see right through you.
Yeah.
All right. Conference tournaments starting this week. There's 3 of them.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Thursday is the Horizon tournament beginning. That's the first one to go. And I have the bracket in front of me.
Let's hear it.
So on Thursday, there is 4 games. I think these are Eastern times, I would guess. 7 Eastern, 5 seed Detroit, 12 seed Robert Morris. 8 Eastern, these are all ESPN Plus, by the way. So you're not actually going to be able to watch this tournament unless you're an ESPN Plus subscriber until the semifinals, which is on ESPN2. And the finals on March 9th is on ESPN. So I'm going to have to get ESPN Plus for Conference Tournaments Week thanks to this BS.
Thanks for nothing, ESPN.
I mean, it's going to be worth it, though, because I'm going to be watching some of this stuff just to try to get a feel on certain teams. Mm-hmm. Like last year during the Horizon tournament, I feel like I had everything on lock. Like I was watching Northern Kentucky play. I was like, man, if they get in, they're going to be really tough. Illinois, Chicago was the same thing. So you have Youngstown State and Illinois, Chicago on Thursday, Green Bay, Fort Wayne, and then Milwaukee against IUPUI. And then on Tuesday the 2nd, Cleveland State will face a team. Northern Kentucky will face a team. Oakland and Wright State. They'll be waiting. That it wraps up March 9th. So who do you think wins this tournament?
I have Cleveland State winning this. Solely based off of the fact that they only lost to Ohio State way back in December by 6. So there you go.
I think Wright State will win it. They're the 2 seed in this tournament. I just think that
is Cleveland State the 1 seed then?
Yeah, Cleveland State's the 1 seed. But
how did they figure that out?
I don't know, because I think it's based on the metrics. It's very weird because I think the regular season.
Yeah, they're tied regular season.
A lot of people have Wright State as the automatic bid.
So. Wright State's 18-5 overall, and Cleveland State's 16-7. So that's weird.
Well, I haven't really watched much of Horizon basketball.
Maybe head-to-head. I assume head-to-head, right?
Yeah, I haven't really watched much Horizon State basketball. Horizon basketball. When they played the back-to-back, here's the weird part. Cleveland State beat Wright State by 2, and then the next day Wright State beat them by 36. So I like Wright State. They're very balanced. Their defense is hardly better than their offense, and they're both top 70 in metrics. They're very, they're quick. They move the ball up and down the floor. They're a top 60 tempo team. And then the other thing that I think is that it's really hard to score on them in the paint. They are 2nd in the country in block percentage. So pretty good. I think the Wright State's much better. I don't know. It's going to be hard because Wright State's going to be facing, 2nd lowest seed. That's going to be a win. These teams could meet in the finals. But based off the way that the games went earlier, it's very confusing, the fact that they beat them by 36 after losing by 2. We'll see, though.
Very weird.
Yeah, I think Northern Kentucky's a team to keep an eye on there. They did also beat Wright State later in the season. So it seems like a lot of games that Wright State played in that they won were blowouts. Like they beat Oakland, by 39. They beat Youngstown State by 28. They beat Cleveland State by 36. They beat IUPUI by 30 and then by 28. They beat Robert Morris by 9, then by 30. I mean, it makes no sense. They beat Illinois Chicago by 25, then by 20. They beat Milwaukee by 11 and then 10. So, yeah, I don't know. I think Wright State's much better than everybody else in the conference, but you never know with conference tournaments.
That's right.
All right. The other one we have a bracket for is the America East tournament, where the 1 seed is UMBC, the 2 seeds Vermont. They split a back-to-back last week. The 3 seed is New Hampshire, 4 is Hartford, 5 is Albany, 6 is Massachusetts Lowell, 7 is Stony Brook, 8 is NJIT, and 9 is Binghamton. Didn't Illinois play Stony Brook in the NIT a long time ago?
That sounds right.
Yeah, I think they did. Who you got in this one?
I'm going to take Vermont. I know they just got beat by UMBC after beating them, but I think Vermont's slightly better than UMBC. So that's what I'm going with.
I would agree with that. Vermont has better shooters, I think. They're better offensively than defensively, but they've been pretty efficient from 3 and from 2, more so from 2. If you go with their 2-point percentage, 35th in the country. So I like Vermont more than UMBC. I don't really think there's another team that could really compete with either of these two, because I think there's a pretty big drop-off between 2 and 3. Steph Smith, if he can play the way that we've seen him play in the past, very good guard, very good shooter. They got to get him to keep going. And, I think Vermont also wins. I would pick them for this one. And then finally we have the Big South, which there's no bracket for because there's still a couple more days of conference games. But that tournament will begin on Saturday the 27th. So this Saturday. So we'll have 3 days straight of conference tournaments starting. So
all on ESPN Plus?
Basically, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the way that it goes. So I'm going to have to do it. I mean, it's only $5 for a month. That's really not bad because I'm not going to be using it in a month. So there's a huge drop-off between the number 1 team in the conference and number 2. You have Winthrop at 17-1, and you have Radford, who did give them a game a couple weeks ago at 12-6. So I'm assuming you're going to take Winthrop?
Yeah, I have Winthrop. I mean, it just seems like they're not going to have – I mean, it's not – a lot of teams played them close during this season. So I don't know, they could get knocked off, but I just think that they're far and above the rest of the teams. But I don't know. High Point, they beat High Point by 6 and then beat them by 8. UNC Asheville's their only loss. They lost by 2. So for all these games, I mean, they had a lot of, 4, 5, 10-point games against other teams in the conference. So this could be an interesting one because does Winthrop get in if they lose this? In your eyes?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So
I think this is a conference where
win and get in. I mean, I might take Presbyterian just because why not?
They are 327th in the country. So,
I'm going to go with Winthrop.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could see Furman giving them some problems.
Yeah.
They're not really a bad team at all. That's not even the same conference. I read that.
I was going to say, where's Furman at?
They did play Furman. I just got confused on when the schedule was.
I got you.
I didn't know they played non-conference, but they did play UNC Greensboro, who leads their conference. They beat them by 8.
Mm-hmm.
But, other than Radford, I don't really see a team giving them too many issues. Maybe Campbell. I mean, I doubt it. This conference, there's such a big gap. It's going to be hard for anybody to beat them. They're very good defensively. They're very fast. They, can control a possession offensively. They're not that efficient offensively, which might hurt them, but they do a lot of little things correctly and right. So I don't know. I would take Winthrop as well, though. I don't know where people see Gardner Webb. Maybe. They haven't had a great season in conference, but they're not too bad. But, I mean, Campbell and Longwood both have pretty big winning streaks coming in. So we'll see how that one goes. We'll see if we get any of these conference picks right because they're actually going to finish conference tournaments this year. So that's exciting. Let's go now to this, shifting from mid-major conference tournaments to top 5 high major freshmen this season. It's a pretty good freshman class. Who's your number 1 freshman? I mean, we're really not going in order, but I think everyone knows who the number 1 guy is.
I would say Hunter Dickinson is number 1. I don't care about.
Well, you're wrong, but you could say
Cade Cunningham. I don't care about any of those other people. impact that he has had for Michigan, I think, has been huge. Nobody was really looking at Michigan as a, contender in the Big Ten. And,
I was.
Sure you were.
I had him at 5. That's contending.
That's contending, sure.
It is.
But I don't think anybody thought that they would only lose one game this deep into it. I think he's a huge part of it. Just the way that he sees the court as a big man, his passing ability, and then just being 7 foot tall and being able to do things around the hoop. It's impressive. You go ahead and tell me Cade Cunningham, though.
Cade Cunningham is the best. 18 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. Can, run the point, 6'8", can shoot. He's pretty good defensively. He's the best overall player. I think
all this time I thought you didn't like him, but
I think Dickinson has had a huge impact on Michigan, definitely, but I still think Cade Cunningham is the best freshman in the country, and he's going to be an All-American. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Dickinson will be an All-American, but Cunningham will. So that's my argument for that. Who's your number 2?
I'm going with Cade Cunningham was my next one. We already talked about him.
Okay, I went with Evan Mobley, who's averaging 17 points and 8 rebounds. He's going to be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft, which means nothing here, but he's by far the best player on USC, and they're the number 1 team in the Pac-12. So
I have Evan Mobley. I didn't really put him in order, but I didn't either. 3rd technically as I listed these. So
I like Dickinson at 3rd if we're going to go in order. Mm-hmm. 14 points, 7 boards, 64% from the field. Already the 3rd best big in the Big Ten, probably behind. If we're going off of centers, behind Garza and Coburn. Trace Jackson Davis is not really a center, but if we're going by centers, he's the 3rd best. He's better than Trevion Williams, definitely. Who else you got?
I got Cameron Thomas of LSU. He's averaging about 23 a game, 3 rebounds. And when I was looking at stats, the one I looked at was from December, apparently. He was shooting almost 40% from 3. He is now down to 30%. But, real good ball player.
40, 30, 90 is what he's at. So,
okay.
He shoots a lot. He's averaging 22 a game. Last 5 games, 25 against Texas Tech, 22 against Alabama, 25 against Mississippi State, 25 against Tennessee, 27 against Auburn. So he's basically carrying the LSU team into the firm bubble, should be in the tournament type. So you're going to want to see him in the tournament. What's your last one?
My last guy was Jalen Suggs, but you told me that I couldn't pick him. So I went with
high majors. So.
Moses Moody of Arkansas. So
I had Sharif Cooper of Auburn, who's a reclassed freshman who came in, I think, in early January, and he's averaging 20 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, elite playmaker. And I'll tell you right now, if he doesn't go to the NBA draft, which I think he will, and I don't think he should, but if he doesn't go, Auburn is going to be very good next year, and they're going to be eligible for the tournament. So if he stays, they'll be really, really good. Let's go Power 6 sleepers, 1 per conference. We'll start in the ACC. Who you got in the ACC to, be a little bit of a sleeper?
I'm going to go with North Carolina, actually. I know that's weird to say North Carolina is a sleeper, but I think if North Carolina gets in, which they should, I think Roy Williams will get them going in the tournament. So I don't ever doubt his ability to make a run in the tournament.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that my pick is really like a huge sleeper.
Okay.
But Virginia Tech, a lot of people, might not see them as – some people might think they're the 3rd best team in the conference. I say that's probably semi-accurate. They're right there. I think 1, 2, and 3 in the ACC is kind of jumbled together at this point with the rest not being very good. But you look at some of their wins, they beat Virginia, they beat Villanova, but they also have some puzzling losses like Pittsburgh and Penn State. So that kind of hurts them a little bit. But they're very balanced. Their defense is better than their offense. They do a lot of things well. I think Mike Young, who came over from Wofford, has done an excellent job there. Mm-hmm. I know they're always good for one huge win each season. Like last year, they beat Michigan State when Michigan State still had Winston and Tillman at Maui. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're always good for one huge win a year. And this year was Villanova, but they also beat Virginia. So I think people might overlook Virginia Tech in the tournament, and I think they can make a run.
That's a fair argument. I like it.
Who do you have in the Big Ten?
I don't know if it's really a sleeper anymore. I still don't feel like they're getting much respect. I picked Purdue. They're sitting alone in 5th place in the Big Ten. Really good at home, not so great on the road. But I think that they had, they're a younger team, and I think that they're finally starting to mesh and play better as a team. So I could see them making a run. But I think you had them as like a 5, right? So
yeah, I think they're 1 year away from really, really being good.
Yeah,
because they're going to be very good next year. I went with Rutgers. I know that they've been bad recently. They've struggled. Ron Harper Jr. can't make a shot to save his life.
Yep.
He's been horrible in the last month. But if they can get Geo Baker and Ron Harper Jr. going, they will be hard to beat because they already have Miles Johnson and Jacob Young, who are tremendous defensively.
Mm-hmm.
If they can get them going, and Steve Peichel's an excellent defensive coach, they're 11th in adjusted defense on KenPom. So I think people will be sleeping on Rutgers because of how well they started and how much they've fallen off. They're still a very talented team. So I could see them making a bit of a run. And the Big East, my answer is not surprising. What's yours?
Mine's Creighton. I mean, is there that many teams in the Big East that could be sleepers? I was, just looking at it, I don't know.
I mean, there's this team coached by Dan Hurley, UConn.
Well, UConn's got to get in first. Let's just calm down.
They're going to get in.
I was making sure that I picked a team that was definitely getting in.
UConn's going to get in. They need James Bouknight to be healthy.
Yeah.
When they get in to make a run.
Yeah.
4th in block percentage. They're huge on the interior. A little bit inexperienced, but still very good. My one thing with them is that they play so slow, and they should play so much faster.
Mm-hmm.
319th in adjusted tempo. Play faster, please. Thank you. I really like them, though. I really like them, and I've said that many times. There's about one team per conference that I just really like a lot. Like, for example, in the Big East, it's UConn, right? In the Big 12, Oklahoma State team that I really like. So that's a segue. Big 12, who you got?
Big 12, I got Texas. I know that they're struggling a little bit lately, but I really like them. I just like their shooters when they're shooting well, they're really good. But they're a hit and miss team. So
I went with Oklahoma State, obviously. 19th in adjusted defense.
Mm-hmm.
They play good defensively. Cade Cunningham he's not the most made for March player because that's obviously Ayo Dosunmu, but he's right there. You look at a player that is made to play in March. Cade Cunningham's one of those guys. The only problem that I have with them is that they're very inexperienced. Because if you look at, if you dive into KenPom a little bit, you'll see that they are what we in the business would say inexperienced because they are 322nd in experience.
Yeah. Not good.
Their average player is 1.11 years of a player. So basically, little like early sophomore is their average.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go with that. Pac-12.
Pac-12, I picked Colorado. Just because looking at the
Overrated.
Pac-12, that's fine. Looking at the Pac-12, I mean, who are you going to pick? USC, best team in the conference. UCLA, I mean, second best team in the conference. So how many teams will they get in? 4, 5, maybe? Stanford getting in?
If Stanford gets in 5, probably 4.
So Colorado is going to be the worst team in the Pac-12, which I think that they can still make a run. I mean, they beat USC earlier in the year. I think they beat Oregon. So you got to watch out for the Buffalo. Buffalo!
Yeah, they're not any good. They're fine, but I think they're overrated. I would definitely say Oregon. I mean, Dana Altman's a great coach. He always wins in March. They're top 50 in adjusted offense and defense. They're getting players back. They need to be healthy. They have Will Richardson. They have Eugene from Eugene, as Bill Walton calls him, even though he's not actually from Eugene, but Eugene from Eugene Omoruyi. Chris Duarte is a stud, and LJ Figueroa from St. John's. So they're a loaded team coming in. They're finally starting to get healthy. They're finally starting to play a lot of games. They had COVID issues. Right. They're going to make a run again. I love Dana Altman teams in March, and I'm sticking with it because you know what? They're a sleeper. 37th on Ken Palm, 38th defensively in the country. They beat Seton Hall early in the season, which doesn't look great. Whatever. Don't care what people think about that win. They beat up on Stanford. Yeah, they lost to Colorado. Big deal. They beat them in the second matchup. They beat Arizona State, who is still a good team despite having a horrible record. They still have some talent there. Give me Oregon. Don't care. Dana Altman wins in March. I'll take the Ducks. SEC, what do you got?
I was gonna pick Missouri, but my body just won't let me physically do something like that. So I'm gonna go with LSU.
Interesting. I also went with LSU. They have an elite scorer in Cam Thomas. They're 6th in adjusted offense, top 40 in the country, and adjusted 2-point percentage and free throw percentage. So that's a fun fact for you.
I'm glad we picked the same so you could run all these stats.
Exactly. They're 50th overall in a strength of schedule. 27th in the net, which doesn't matter, but whatever. They're also 18th in the adjusted strength of schedule 50th in the strength of schedule according to Ken Palm, 18th according to the other things that they go, the other metrics or whatever. 3-6 in quad one, which, it's fine. I mean, you look at their quad one losses, Alabama twice. They got killed in both of those games. Texas Tech by 5, Florida by 4. St. Louis by 4, and then Kentucky they lost to by 13, which is a little weird, but what can you do? LSU is that team in the SEC. Mountain West is what we're going to go into next. Who is the best team in the Mountain West? Go ahead.
I'm going with San Diego State. They're starting to come. I think they've won like 9 in a row. Starting to come together pretty well. They got Mitchell and Shackle. Both averaging about 15 a game. Shackle's 45% from 3, and Mitchell's 38%. So got some shooters. They got another guy that's 42%. Impressive. Are you all right?
Woo! I'll take Boise State.
Okay.
I mean, they're close in the net. 32nd.
You all right?
Woo!
They played twice this week too, so
those are huge games.
Yeah.
Take it over.
What do you want me to take over? I think we're gonna find out who's better this weekend. They play Thursday and Saturday, so back-to-back games. It's gonna be pretty good week. We'll see who comes out ahead. Okay, you got anything else on your team? Boise State, you got any defensive efficiencies you want to throw out?
I do. Boise State is I don't know what's happening.
I don't know.
Man. 60th in adjusted defense, 48th in adjusted offense, of course. I'm back to normal. 40th in the basketball power index, 68th Haslametrics, 55th in Ken Palm, 32nd in the net, 2-2 against quads, 1-2, 4-0 and I don't know what's wrong with me. 4-0 in quad 3. I haven't laughed in like a month, so that's probably
good. That's good.
Just getting it out.
I could
laugh attack.
Help you do that.
Unintended words. It happens. 9-0 in quad 4, which is important. You win your quad 4 games. That's important. I like San Diego State a lot, though I think the better team, maybe not on paper, but the better team is Boise State. But if you look at the actual metrics and the stats, people will think that it's San Diego State, who is 19th in Ken Palm. They're very friendly with the metrics. They're 16th in adjusted defense, 10th in Haslametrics overall. So they're pretty well rated in those with those stats. But I still like Boise State a little bit more, but those games this week will be huge. The other two options would be Colorado State and Utah State.
Mm-hmm.
Utah State, not very good.
They're struggling.
They've lost players.
Yeah.
Second.
Their last 2 or something.
Yeah, 2 losses in quad 3 as well. Those quad 3 losses are killer to a lot of resumes. Those 2 quad 3 losses were South Dakota State, and they lost to UNLV. So pretty bad losses by the numbers. But, Yeah, I'll go Boise State. You take San Diego State. We'll find out this week. We'll find a little bit more.
You want to bet on them?
Not at all. Winners and losers of the week. This is your segment, so go for it.
Okay. Yeah. Winners of the week. I picked all big schools because the little ones really don't matter, do they, until we get to tournament time. So Michigan would be my biggest winner of the week, I think. Came off a 3-week COVID break, I guess. 2 of those weeks they didn't get to do anything. And then they go to beat Rutgers. They beat Ohio State yesterday. And they look like the best team in the Big Ten right now, by far, I think. That Ohio State game was semi-close, but I don't think it was as close as the score indicated personally. My next winner would be Maryland. Nobody really had them in the tournament up until this week, and then they beat Minnesota. Luckily, they got to play Nebraska twice, beat them twice, and then they beat Rutgers. So, and then Rutgers, of course, I think would be a loser. They've only won 1 of their last 4 games. I think they're leaning towards the bubble. I know you don't believe that because Minnesota's kind of taken over the bubble area for the Big Ten just because they're 6-10 and everybody else is pretty close. And Indiana. Florida State I have as a winner, beating Virginia, and I think they're up 2 or 3 games in the ACC now. And
Florida State's response to going to overtime with Wake Forest was to kill Virginia.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good response right there. And with everything that they lost last season, still very good. I mean, they lost Vassell, I think, was one of their players there, right? I mean, he was a first-round pick to the Spurs, I think. So they lost some guys, but they still have players, and Leonard Hamilton's a pretty good coach. So that definitely helps. That's just, the skinny on them. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then my last winner I got is Kansas. After falling out of the top 25 for 200 whatever weeks that was. They've now won 5 in a row, like you said earlier, and they did beat Texas Tech on Saturday, which is a really good win. As far as losers, Virginia lost to Duke, lost to Florida State, got stomped by Florida State. I did put Drake as a loser just because their second best player is now out, and Penn, not necessarily because they lost anything, just they're going to have a tough climb back to make the tournament, I think.
Staying in, really. I mean, if they lose another regular season game, or if they lose to like a Valpo again in the tournament, or if they lose to like a Northern Iowa or Bradley, pretty much anyone other than Loyola, they're in big trouble.
Yep. Next one, I put Indiana down just with that loss to Michigan State. They seem to be sliding the wrong way. They have a big game, like I said, against Rutgers this week. I think that that's one that they need to win, really.
Do you think it's time to start talking about maybe Archie Miller being on the hot seat there?
I think Indiana fans have been talking about that for a couple of years.
I know every time they lose, the comment section is filled with fire Archie Miller, but like it might be valid at this point. You can't lose that game.
There's a lot of comparisons to, Underwood at Illinois got hired at the same time, and Ohio State's coach, I believe, got hired at the same time. So
2 of those are not like the other right now.
Exactly.
Like Underwood basically has 2 tournament appearances because last year counts.
Right.
And Archie Miller, if they lose another game, I mean, I don't even know if it matters. If they lose to Michigan this week, that's another loss. I mean, as much as people may look at it as, you're losing to Michigan, but look at their other losses on their resume. Like, you cannot lose that game to Michigan State. Right. And the good thing for teams playing Michigan State is that when you play them in their place, it's not going to be a quad 3 loss. So, like when Illinois plays them tomorrow, if they lose that game, it's not a quad 3 loss.
Right.
But the one for Indiana was. And if you look at their resume, that's 2 quad 3 losses now, Michigan State and Northwestern. So, and then you look at 3-7 in quad 1 is, it is quad 1, so it's not bad. I mean, their losses are Texas, Florida State, Wisconsin. Illinois twice, and then their wins are or their other losses, Purdue. Their wins are Maryland. They did beat. They lost to Ohio State as well. Iowa, twice they beat, so that's somehow happened. And they beat Maryland, but they're also 5-1 in quad 2, so it's close. 12-10 overall. Being in the Big Ten is going to help them, but I don't know if they're going to make the tournament.
But the question is, so would the Big Ten only get 8 teams in? I mean,
if Indiana and Minnesota continue to slide, I would say so, yeah.
Yeah.
Minnesota has a huge target on their back with the committee because they haven't won a road game.
Right.
That can't be good. In a year where there's no fans and you haven't won a road game, very bad.
Yeah, true. Next one, I put Tennessee down. Lost to Kentucky. They've lost 2 of their last 3, like we talked about earlier. So they're sliding the wrong way. And then my last one is your team, St. Louis. Lost to Dayton, which Dayton's not a bad team. I mean, really, if they get their stuff together, they could be a tournament team. But St. Louis trying to battle for that at-large bid.
I still think they're in barely.
Yeah. But they're close. They can't be losing any more games. So.
They also have a very good chance to win the A10 tournament.
So right. True.
They have what we in the business refer to as the best rebounding guard maybe in the last decade, which is Jordan Goodwin, who averages like 10 rebounds a game as a guard. And then you have, another loser of the week could be Minnesota, right? I mean, getting run out of the gym in your own place. I know it's a good team you're facing, but getting just obliterated and then you're still in the bubble.
Yep.
You can consider them there as well.
Yep.
So who's your overall team of the week?
Like I said earlier, I think Michigan is team of the week this week. Like I said, coming back after that pause, I think they played 3 games since that. They've won them all.
Yeah, they played Wisconsin, Rutgers, and Ohio State, which are 3 tournament teams.
Yeah, and then went into Ohio State and won. Like I said, that game was close, but I still don't think it was as close as 6 points or whatever it was.
Well, Dwayne Washington Jr. hit some big shots to keep Ohio State. And C.J. Walker had a couple big ones, and E.J. Liddell did as well.
E.J. Liddell's unreal.
Yeah, you should have gone to Illinois. I went with Kansas.
He loved Ohio State, was why he went there.
I went with Kansas, 17-7 overall in the year, 11-5 in the Big 12. They held a bad Kansas State team to 41 points, and then they beat Texas Tech. 5 straight wins after their loss to West Virginia. Honorable mention would be Michigan. So that's what I got there. Player of the week, I think we had the same one for this one.
Yeah, Noah Williams of Washington State. Had 12 points Monday against Washington, 32 Thursday against California, and then a 40 spot against Stanford on Saturday. So that Stanford game had to go into like double overtime because he played 52 minutes.
Yeah.
So it had to be triple overtime, right?
I guess, yeah.
But,
I don't know.
I don't know. He was 4 or 6 from 3 against California. 8 of 18 from 3 against Stanford. 18 threes.
It's pretty good.
Sophomore guard.
He was 1 rebound away and 3 assists away from a triple-double against Cal. So, yeah, Washington State's going to be really good next year, I think. If they can keep everybody there, they're going to be good. So they're much different than Washington. Washington had big recruits for years, didn't get into the tournament when they had Markelle Fultz or Jaden McDaniels, didn't get into the tournament, and now Washington State turned it around. So they're different. They're opposites at this point. I also went with Noah Williams. This is a fun one, realistic or unrealistic. I had 4 randomized, basically, tournament scenarios for the Final 4, and I'm going to give you the scenario. You're going to tell me if you could see it happening or not.
Okay.
The first one is a crazy one. This is Florida, who's a projected 7, Oklahoma State, who's a projected 6 or 7, depending on who you ask, Purdue, who's a projected 6 or 7, and Wisconsin, who's a projected 7 or 8. So
I'm going to say unrealistic.
I would agree.
I don't know if Florida's good enough to make a run. I could see Wisconsin somehow making a run.
No.
I could. It's just something about Wisconsin.
Oklahoma State and Purdue are much more likely to make a run, I think.
Yeah. If Young and what's the other dude's name? Potter and
Trace?
No.
Reavers.
If they could figure out basketball. How to
Rebounding,
rebound.
yeah.
They could make a run, but yeah, that is the craziest Final Four.
Yeah, I don't think there's a scenario where at least one of the 1 seeds will get into the Final Four, I think.
Right.
This one's a little more realistic, but also kind of crazy at the end.
Okay.
Gonzaga,
Yeah.
Virginia, who's projected 3, 4, or 5.
Okay.
Oregon, who's a projected 10, and North Carolina, who's a projected 11, and some have them as first 4 out.
I could see that happening. Like I said, I think North Carolina has a chance to make a run. I know you love Oregon, but I don't know if I see them in the Final Four.
Oregon has a much better chance to get to the Final Four than North Carolina.
Okay. All right. Well,
they got Eugene from Eugene in the front court. They have 3 really, really good guards with Duarte, Figueroa, and Richardson. Plus, their coach aligns Rubik's cubes. I mean, come on.
That's all you need.
This one, I think, is extremely realistic, but maybe not for some. Like, the next 2 are pretty realistic. This one is Gonzaga, Illinois, West Virginia, and Loyola Chicago. This is my dream Final Four. If we can get Baylor in there over West Virginia,
this one,
it's randomized. So if we can get Baylor in there over West Virginia, oh man, I would love that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that one is, except for your team, Loyola.
They're gonna get in again. Last time they were in the tournament, they got to the Final Four. Who's stopping them now? They're better now than they were then.
That's true.
Their front court can shoot. Okay, they're still really good. Different. Yeah, but it's all depending on what region they're in. If they're in the region with Ohio State, why not? Their backcourt is excellent and can shoot. Braden Norris, Keith Clemens, Lucas Williamson. They have one of the best centers in the history, or I guess forwards, one of the best forwards in the history of the Missouri Valley with Krutwig. Their bench is good. They have, good shooting overall. They're well coached. Porter Moser could easily be a Power 6 coach right now if he wanted to. So I think that's very realistic. This one also pretty close. I would say Baylor, Michigan, Florida State, Creighton.
I think so far that's the most realistic one you've had.
I think number 3 is the most realistic because
sure you do.
Because I don't think Creighton is so hot and cold. Like if they play like they did against Villanova, then sure.
That's what the
if they play like they did against, exactly. So I'm banking on them not being hot.
Okay.
Because
cold.
If they play like they did against Villanova, sure they can get in. If they play like they did against Georgetown, they're not going to get into the Final Four.
Sure.
Florida State, I could definitely see Baylor, Michigan. Those are givens. But if we can get Gonzaga, Illinois, Baylor, and Loyola Chicago in the Final Four, I mean,
that'd be your dream, thrilled. Wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. And anyone who thinks that that's not realistic,
in there maybe too, huh?
Ooh, man, slip UConn in there over Gonzaga. I'm all in. So this is a NCAA 3-coach trait, obviously, just for fun, just because I was trying to think of stupid topics to do.
Okay.
If you had to pick one offensive coach that's going to be in the coaching in the tournament this year, who would you pick?
I'm going to go with the best offensive team in the nation and Mark Few.
That's a cop-out, but I also went with them.
I mean, if we're being realistic or unrealistic, realistically.
I didn't really base it off of this year solely, though. Like, they've been top 25 in adjusted offense for 6 straight seasons.
Wow.
They're number 2 on KenPom this year, but they're basically number 1. I mean, Iowa's number 1 slightly, and you look at the game they played, I would take Gonzaga.
I don't think that Fran's making them number 1, though.
Yeah, I agree. And then you look at like if you compare the players, Suggs is much better than Bohannon offensively. I mean, I know Bohannon can shoot, but Suggs can do more. Corey Kispert's a better 3-point shooter than Joe Wieskamp. He cancels him out. Second guard, probably CJ Frederick. I'll take Joel Ayayi. Thanks for coming. Drew Timme and Garza, they're both really, really good. Like, I think Garza's been slightly overrated at this point just because of the way he's played in the Big Ten. That being said, I would take Gonzaga as number 1 this year. They were number 1 last year. They were number 1 in 2019. They've just gotten better every year. Like they were 14th in 2018, 16th in 2017, 22nd in 2016. So from 2016 to now, they're 22nd, 16th, 14th, number 1, number 2, basically number 1. So that seems good. Defensively,
that does seem good.
What coach would you pick?
Defensively, I went with Houston and Kelvin Sampson.
That's a good pick. I went with Tony Bennett, a guy that I really like.
Even
23rd
though their
this year.
defense isn't as good as what has been.
I didn't base it off of this year solely.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're 23rd this year, not good. But if you look at the track record, they won that national championship in 2019, number 1 last year, number 5 in 2019, number 1 in 2018, number 2 in 2017, number 7 in 2016. So he knows how to coach defense. And when Illinois fired John Gross, I wanted him at Illinois, even though it was a pipe dream.
Mm-hmm.
But he should have come to Illinois. So his mistake. Even though he wouldn't have won a national championship, but whatever. Players coach, like a coach that is good at recruiting, seemingly a motivating coach, probably a former player. You're not biased at all. Who would you take?
I would take Brad Underwood. No doubt.
Poster in the back says it all.
I do like the way he coaches, though. And I like the thing is, you either, as a player, you either love the way Brad Underwood coaches, or you hate it and you leave, like
Mark Smith
and Coleman Lands and
Tillman didn't come before,
Yeah, Trevion Jones
and the people who like it, Trent Frazier.
Yeah, and then and it is what it is. But just the way I just like that bulldog mentality, and I think that his players would run through walls for him. They do get lackluster sometimes, but I don't know if it's so much because of him or just because that's the way kids are these days. But
if he can get them to play like they did Saturday, nobody's beating them,
right?
Except for maybe Gonzaga and Baylor and maybe Michigan, but whatever. I went with Juwan Howard. Okay. He's had elite recruiting classes and elite transfers. Like 2 of their big puzzle pieces this season are Smith and Brown, both transfers, okay? Yeah. Their biggest piece offensively, other than maybe Isaiah Livers, even though I think Dickens has been a bigger impact, freshman recruit. Yeah. Next year, 2 5-stars, 3 4-stars. Players love playing for him. He's a former player. He played at Michigan. He's got that, aura about him.
Does that wear off, though? I mean, does the wanting to come play for somebody like that wear off eventually? I don't know. I don't know.
I think
some of my friends have asked that. I just don't know.
Well, he's off to a better start than Penny Hardaway. So
sure,
you got that. I mean, for sure.
Not that Hardaway didn't get great players. I don't know.
He got great players, and he cheated, and he can't coach. It's another former player that can't coach, Mr. Jerry Stackhouse, of course, who's a bum. We won't go into that. Maybe we should. 5 wins in 2 years, and he's bitching about people complaining. Seriously, you worried about what people are tweeting about you, Jerry? You're a head coach, okay? And stop dressing like you're in like a 1940s barber shop, dude. Get with the program. No one's wearing suits anymore. Seriously. He's like wearing this fancy ass suit. I mean, seriously, get over yourself.
He cares about himself.
Oh, he cares more about what his suit looks like than his 5-25 record in the SEC in the last 2 seasons. Ouch. I don't care if you're coaching at Vanderbilt. The SEC is not really any good. So that's all I got to say about Mr. Jerry Stackhouse. But, Juwan Howard, also very respected assistant coach in the NBA before this. So, there's players, coaches that weren't former players that are really good at coaching players. I mean, I think, John Calipari, did he play basketball? Maybe he did, but I feel like he's kind of that guy. Coach K.
Sure he did.
Players, coaches, they're not little evil geniuses.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Saban, players coach in football. Has that worn off? Didn't think so. Thanks for coming. 6 national titles. I go with Juwan Howard. I don't know if he's cheating or not. I really don't care. I think he's a pretty good coach so far. And he's basically, the torch was handed to him by Beeline when Beeline made a really dumb mistake to go to the Cavaliers and then quit halfway through the year, which whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, that I'm sure he feels bad about that, but I have seen some rumblings. People in the Big Ten whose coaches might get fired, they want Beeline. Minnesota, Indiana. I could see him taking one of those jobs if he becomes available, right? I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Minnesota makes a lot of sense for him. It's close to Michigan. Pitino has done a terrible job there because he's been there for a million seasons and complains about injuries constantly. So that's fun. If you look at some KenPom and Haslametric stuff, how about top 5 analytic darlings this season? So
Colgate, I assume.
They're a net darling, which doesn't really count in my mind, so no.
Okay.
They're a metric darling, but because of the net being incompetent.
Yeah.
San Diego State is definitely that. They're 10th in Haslametrics, 19th in KenPom. USC is that. They're up there, 14th in KenPom. Loyola Chicago is that. They're freaking number 1 in adjusted defense on KenPom, which is amazing. Colorado is that, even though I think they're a little bit overrated. 18th on KenPom, 17th in offense. Iowa is that as well, being number 1 offensively, according to KenPom. So now we get to the good part of the show, which is the games of the week. And today there's 3 games, and 3 games that I picked. I don't know if you picked the same, but what do you got?
I got number 18. Texas Tech is going to Oklahoma State. OK State
Mac
won
McClung, Cade
overtime.
Cunningham.
Oklahoma State won in overtime, the first matchup. And then my other one would be your team, Oregon, is going to play USC tonight.
That's a good game. Big game. Oregon, I like in that game. I think they'll win that game. So don't at me. Yeah, obviously I do. I did pick Syracuse and Duke just because it's a big game in terms of like whoever loses is done going into the ACC tournament. So, I mean, I think they're both already done, but whoever loses is done.
Okay.
So that's,
fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of actually watching it, I'll pass, but it's a big game. Also, I would also shout out Pepperdine and St. Mary's. Okay. Decently large West Coast Conference game seeding in that tournament, even though if Gonzaga plays in that tournament, they're going to win it. So Tuesday,
Illinois goes to Michigan State.
Not interested, won't watch.
I put this up here because Michigan State's one of those teams you don't really know, and then Illinois is one of those teams that likes to play to their competition regardless of how good they are. So,
I mean, Minnesota's not very good, and they waxed them.
That's true. That's but
twice.
Nobody wins by 20 or 30 in the Big Ten. So,
except for Illinois over Minnesota twice, and Iowa over Michigan State.
Yeah, but so I think that it's one of those games where will Illinois show up? And obviously we do an Illinois podcast, so I'm gonna
tomorrow we'll be doing that.
Yeah. Then St. John's goes to play Villanova.
Big game for St. John's.
Yeah,
if they can win this game, they're right back on the freaking. They're right back in.
Back in your heart. I know
that would be 2 wins over them. So,
and then Kansas goes to Texas. Should be a good one. Texas actually won this first meeting 84-59.
Yeah, that was when Kansas was at their lowest of lows for the season. And now Texas is going to be coming off of a game where they blew a 19-point lead in the second half to West Virginia. And Kansas is coming off of a Saturday win over Texas Tech. So the teams are going in opposite directions right now. And this is Shaka Smart's moment. We thought they were going to be very good this season, and they've been very good for most of the season. They had some COVID issues, and now it's time for them to, what some in the business might say, put up or shut up.
That's right. That is what they say.
It is, yeah.
And then Ole Miss goes to Missouri. Ole Miss beat Missouri last time they met. Tillman is back, I believe.
Yeah, he is.
Missouri really struggled without him, so it's kind of a bounce back game for Missouri, I believe.
You think Missouri fans are still mad that Illinois and Alabama are ranked ahead of them in the AP? Like, imagine being like triggered about the AP poll. The only time that I was mad about it is when that one guy forgot to put Illinois in there, which isn't even that big of a deal at this point. But who cares? Right. I mean, the AP is a joke.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Most of the people that vote for that don't watch the games.
The AP, the AP doesn't matter. It's all about what you do in the conference tournament, and of course, in March Madness. So.
Yeah, Ole Miss is a sleeper team for me in the SEC. I think they can make a bit of a run here. This would staple that and get them a better seed, probably somewhere in the middle of that conference.
Playing pretty well lately, so I can't remember who else they beat, but they beat some teams. So.
They've won a lot of games in a row.
Yeah,
going into that.
You got any games for Tuesday?
I have North Alabama, Liberty. They played today. Liberty won that game by 20, but North Alabama is a pretty good team. In the Atlantic Sun, I would say UMass and Richmond's a big game for Atlantic 10 seeding, as both these teams are pretty middle of the conference, but UMass has been pretty good in conference play to this point. Akron and Ohio, another important game for MAC seeding, behind Toledo. Akron's right there at the top. Akron did mess around a little bit with Northern Illinois and barely beat them last week. St. Louis VCU is a huge game. in the Atlantic 10, so a couple of big Atlantic 10 ones. Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech. Georgia Tech has to win this game, and Virginia Tech has to not disappoint. Like I said earlier, Virginia Tech has a tendency to lose bad games and win really good games.
Yeah.
So Iowa State, Baylor, just because Baylor's back, they haven't played since February 2nd. And, of course, my bold prediction of the week is that Baylor will lose this week. They have 3 games. They have Iowa State. They should win that game. They should win that game by 40. They might win it by 20, though, since they haven't played in 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. They have Kansas and West Virginia. They will lose one of those games, I think, which I'm still going to think they're a top 2 team in the country. It's not going to change unless Michigan beats the doors off of Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you say – no, you didn't say UConn at Georgetown?
No, I don't.
Georgetown's best games. Okay, too far. Georgetown's best games this season have been against better opponents.
Okay.
They've played their best games. They beat Creighton. I think they beat – who did they beat? Did they beat like Xavier or someone last week? I don't know, but UConn needs to win this game to stay where they are. Also, one of the ones that I put for Wednesdays, I think canceled, so we'll talk about that. What do you got Wednesday?
The only game I got Wednesday in the top 25, Alabama goes to Arkansas. Alabama beat the snot out of Arkansas the first time they met, 90-59. So, see how Arkansas, a little litmus test, as they say in the business.
They do say that, yeah. Mm-hmm. You didn't put Indiana Rutgers as a big bubble matchup.
Didn't? Oh, I've been talking about it all game. Did I not?
All game?
Not. all podcasts.
Yeah. Xavier Providence is another big bubble game on Wednesday.
Maybe because I already put it up top, you know?
Probably, yeah. East Tennessee State and Virginia Military Institute play on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. Middle of the pack SoCon teams. ETSU is 8-6, VMI 7-7. ETSU won the first game by 11, and then I had Iona and Marist, which is now postponed because I believe Iona is done for the regular season due to a Tier 1 positive test. So that's going to be the most interesting mid-major tournament, the MAAC. Iona could win that. They got Rick Pitino coaching them. They could win that tournament. But we'll see what happens. They've only played 9 conference games, and now they're done. So, Thursday, good day of basketball. Thursday, West Virginia, like you said earlier, plays Baylor at 4.
So Baylor, like you said, has missed 5 games in a row, and it was literally the hardest part of their schedule. They're supposed to play Oklahoma, Texas Tech, West Virginia, and
win,
and Oklahoma State.
Davion
literally the hardest schedule part of their schedule they missed.
Michigan basically did the same thing, but Michigan's schedule is still hard to remain. But this game's at 4:00 Central. I wonder if it's on ESPN Plus.
I don't know,
because the Big 12 has that exclusive thing with them because that Oklahoma West Virginia game was on ESPN Plus, which is absurd. Let's get more people interested in games.
Terrible.
Let's get more people interested in games by putting huge, high major games on ESPN Plus.
I don't even know what
that'll get the people interested. Let me guess your other ones: Iowa, Michigan, Big Ten game, USC, Colorado. Did you put that on there?
I did, because you hate Colorado.
Okay, Boise State, San Diego State.
Obviously.
Is that your last one? Do you have any others?
Ohio State goes to Michigan State.
And nobody cares about that.
Ohio State's still trying to stay on that number 1 spot. So
Oregon Stanford is a bubble game, so you can check that out. You got a big non-conference game, Western Kentucky and Houston. Would drastically improve Houston's resume if they beat or Western Kentucky's resume if they beat Houston. They're trying to up their numbers. Good non-conference game. My other one was Belmont, Eastern Kentucky. Belmont's been vulnerable a few times in the OVC. Eastern Kentucky's pretty good, 12-5 in the conference. And then San Francisco, BYU is my last game. West Coast Conference. San Francisco, prone to upsetting teams. They beat Virginia this year. They almost beat Gonzaga last year. That'll be a good West Coast Conference game. What do you got Friday?
Nothing. It's a day off for the good teams. You go ahead.
Okay, that's a little much. I mean, Loyola Chicago plays. Lipscomb, North Alabama, middle of the pack Atlantic Sun teams. Lipscomb is 3rd, North Alabama is 4th. They play Saturday as well. Southern Illinois is playing Loyola Chicago. They could give them some issues. We'll see. They play Saturday too. Nevada, Utah State. Nevada is going to be really good next season. This season, they can play spoiler. They beat Boise State twice. And then a big West game. UC Riverside, UC Santa Barbara, late night, 10 o'clock Central, 11 Eastern on ESPN. UCSB.
Not plus, huh?
Just ESPN. Yeah, they must have not had anything scheduled. I think it might be ESPN2, actually. It is ESPN2. UCSB is first in the Big West. UCR, aka UC Riverside, is third. They'll play on Saturday as well. Big game there. Saturday, what do you got?
Michigan at Indiana. Like one of the only road games Michigan has left, I'm pretty sure. And I would say that Indiana really needs to win one of the games this week, right? So if it's going to be Michigan, I'd be surprised, but it'll be a fun game to watch, I think. Maybe it'll be close. Maybe Michigan will win by 30. Who knows? And then I have Texas Tech. Illinois plays at Wisconsin for their second matchup of the season. LSU goes to Arkansas. So good SEC matchup there. Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma. Florida State goes to North Carolina. Boise State plays San Diego State again. And then Baylor plays Kansas.
Yeah, there's a lot of good games on Saturday. You have Syracuse and Georgia Tech. It's kind of a bubble game. Both teams pretty severely on the outside looking in. One of them, it could win. If Syracuse can win tonight and then they win Saturday, maybe they'll be more in the picture. Bellarmine Liberty. So Bellarmine is tournament eligible. They're ineligible for the tournament at 10-2.
Yeah.
Liberty leads for the automatic bid at 8-2 going into the conference tournament. This could be an upset special for Liberty in terms of not really even an upset, but like in terms of them playing a team that can't be in the tournament.
Yeah.
I had Siena, Iona. That game is postponed or canceled, I guess. So that sucks. Siena was number one in the conference. Would have been a good game. Florida State, North Carolina. Did you say that one?
Yeah.
That's a good one. Belmont, Morehead State. Belmont, number one in the OVC, undefeated. Morehead State is number two. They're 14-3. That'll be a really high-level OVC game. UNC Greensboro, East Tennessee State. UNC Greensboro is number one in the conference. ETSU is 8-6. Creighton and Xavier. I don't know if you said that one. That's a good game.
I did not see that one, apparently.
Did you say Louisville Duke? Whatever you do, don't watch this game.
No, I didn't. Does anybody care?
It's a game that Louisville needs to win, though.
Okay.
Drake and Bradley. Bradley's not very good, but Drake, no Roman Penn, no Shanquan Hemphill. Going to be tough for them. Then St. Mary's BYU, another late night decent game in the West Coast Conference. BYU needs to win this game. If they lose this game, watch out for the at-large bids. Sunday.
Iowa, Ohio State.
That's the only good game you got?
That's the only game I got, man.
No Dayton, St. Bonaventure. Dayton's an upset special team in the Atlantic 10. Maybe they could beat the Bonnies. I
told you that I did all the top 25 games.
I mean, you could pick the fun ones.
It was the rest was for you. But yeah, Iowa plays Michigan and Ohio State in a span of 4 days.
Big week.
It's gonna be huge. So
they'll win one of those, I think.
I think so too.
And I'm definitely not hoping it's Michigan. UMass and St. Louis. Big A10 game. UMass, big week for them. They could turn some heads. Then Nevada, Utah State. Once again, Nevada upset special potentially. We'll find out. Let's go to McVick's picks.
Yeah, so we didn't do so well last week. We went 1-2, I believe. So McVick had a snow day last week and decided not to send me any picks. I think there were only 3 games anyways. Some of these games might have already happened, but I will tell you what he has. I know the 2 games that haven't happened. He has Texas Tech -3 against Oklahoma State. And then he said that he wouldn't bet the Oregon USC game. But if he had to, he'd take Oregon +4.
I like the Texas Tech pick.
And then
and Oregon, obviously.
And then he said he picked 3 favorites. I don't know who these guys are playing if you want to look that up. Sam Houston -9, Moorhead -11, and Mercer -8.
Moorhead is up 5 at the half right now on SIUE.
Okay.
And then what were the
Sam
other two?
Houston State.
Sam Houston plays Lamar at 70 Central.
Okay. So -9, Sam Houston. And then Mercer.
Mercer plays the Citadel in 10 minutes.
Okay, -8.
So he went 2-1 in week 1, and then we picked last week, we went 1-2.
1
We
and
lost
2.
with Washington State and Virginia. We won with
Chattanooga.
Chattanooga over
Way
East
down yonder on the
State.
Chattanooga. Isn't that how that song goes?
Don't know, don't care. All right, watchability index. This is from Heat Check CBB on Twitter. I just want to throw this up there.
Look at that @ sign. That's cool.
That is not. I don't find that to be the case. But anyway, the tweet is good. It says, "Hi, yes, I'd like to start the week off with Mac McClung versus Kate Cunningham." That's good.
Yes.
Now Pepperdine, St. Mary's, I'm fine with. I think Oregon USC should be in the green over Syracuse Duke. I think Syracuse Duke should be the orange, to be quite honest.
I agree.
And Evansville Drake, just for the fact of watching Evansville without him, or watching Drake without Hemphill and Penn, could be interesting, even though Evansville's terrible. Evansville with one of the greatest seasons of all time last year. They went into Rupp and beat a good Kentucky team that had Quickly and had Hagans, and then their coach impregnated a student, whole big thing.
Okay.
Great story in Evansville last year. I like Little Rock, Louisiana, Monroe could be interesting. Texas State, Arkansas State as well. UNCG, Western Carolina is happening now. That game is 77-54. UNCG taking care of business. So
I would assume that this is ranked by times. That's why Oregon isn't in the green.
No, I think it's the times are on the left and
right
on the top.
So you can't put 2 green ones at one time.
I guess that's stupid.
Well, maybe you should make Ethan Carter Heat Check CBB.
You know what we'll do is we'll just flip Texas State, Arkansas State, and Syracuse Duke because nobody wants to watch Syracuse Duke. That game sucks, and it's on ESPN.
I'm sure ESPN thought it'd be a good game when they scheduled that 8 months
There's no way that they can't flex that out, even though it is Duke, so they really have no reason to. But whatever, I just figured we'd look at that. We'll probably look at it again next Monday. And 20
You've
days.
Been sending me those to show me what games to watch, so I appreciate it.
It's very good job by them at Heat Check CBB on Twitter. That'll do it for us though. An hour 22. Not even really that close to the one last year that was an hour 40. So I got it really bad. So that was good. We'll be back next Monday, and as well as tomorrow, we'll be doing our Illini podcast. See you then. Had a laugh attack today. That's what happens in part of the podcast. We'll be back next Monday for this and tomorrow for this stuff and all that stuff. Yeah.